In those days, there were oceans of light and cities in the skies and wild flying beasts of bronze. There were herds of crimson cattle that roared and were taller than castles. There were shrill viridian things that haunted bleak rivers. It was a time of gods manifesting themselves upon our world in all her aspects, a time of giants who walked on water, of mindless sprites and misshapen creatures who could be summoned by an ill-considered thought, but driven away only on pain of some fearful sacrifice, of magics, phantasms, unstable nature, impossible events, insane paradoxes, dreams come true, dreams gone awry, of nightmares assuming reality. Hello and welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host, Liam, aka Himbar. Today I'll be doing a spoiler-free review of Michael Moorcock's The Knight of the Swords. Knight of the Swords is a 1971 novel in Book 1 in the first Corum trilogy. Corum is an aspect of the Eternal Champion, like Elric of Melniboné, Erikoze Hawkmoon, others, of course Elric being the most famous. It is set on a world where three sapient races dominate, essentially. Two are on the wane, however, and one on the rise. That one is humanity, which are called Mabdin. The other are the long-lived Varach and the Nadrach. I don't know if I'm saying those correctly, but they are considered more civilized. They don't even practice war or things like slavery either. But their doom is upon them, as in a way they're kind of like elves. They're just kind of like aloof and not paying good enough attention when the Mabdin start doing bad things, essentially. So Corum is a Varach, and he lives in a castle with his 11 family members. They have not left in centuries and have had no word of the world for 100 years. He is very innocent as to the evils of mankind, and his journey away from his home is terribly enlightening. There is kind of an idea of utopia contrast with simian mankind, and we also have crippled heroes in this one as well. It does have some torture near the start that some people might not like. This is a very short book as well. Corum and his people are a species of law, as opposed to the Melnibonéans of chaos, and even the Mabdin, which are kind of chaos as well. In this sense, though, if you've read Elric, I assume you've read Elric if you're going to read Corum. I find Corum actually better, but assuming you've read Elric, and maybe if you haven't, Elric is very much a doomed hero. Corum is not, and he's more relatable, even if he's still rather alien. In fact, in some ways, he's more alien by nature than the Melnibonéans. And this story is kind of, it's melancholy, but it's contrasted with great liveliness. As opposed to Elric, which is dominantly doom and woe and gloom. We actually do have Ariok here, and it's important to the title of the book. We also have this nice contrast in this world of ignorance and pride. We have sorcery and science mixed. It's honestly very fresh to read. It's like, considering this came out in the 70s, after most of Elric had been written already, I think Moorcock had a lot under his belt at this point, and it shows. This is really good heroic fantasy, specifically sword and sorcery. It's very tragic, and fatalism does have a place here, but it's really awesome too. And in some ways, Corum isn't as cool as Elric. He doesn't have that edgelord sexiness, so to speak. The story itself was cooler, and in my opinion, also generally speaking, better written than a lot of the Elric novels. There is an eye and a hand as well that come into play that are great competition for cool magical items, for Stormbringer. They might have something to do with the eye and hand of Vecna. I'm not really sure, actually, exactly where Gygax got that inspiration. Though the name Vecna comes from Vance, who's a different author, of course, which you should also go read. I think this one also ends at a pretty great place and makes it work as a standalone novel if you're not that interested in reading on. It's a kind of a nice ending. It's not like tragic, it's not cliffhangery, but there are two more books in the series, and there is a sequel trilogy as well. I have finished this trilogy, but not the next trilogy. It does get a little epic in scale. It is very much focused on Corum and his struggles, and the big events don't involve great host or doing something for the greater good. It's actually sort of a romance, and a sword and sorcery one at that. And so this outsider character, this small struggles, very personal struggles, the dark sorcery, this fantastic world, definitely I feel like firmly puts it into sword and sorcery. I did question one of the characters' choices, Rolina's, but overall I also thought she was a great and capable figure, and throughout the series actually I like that character. Besides that, we have more interesting stuff, and I'm looking forward to talking about the next 2 books in the series as well. But Liam's Lyceum, I'll catch you next time.